It's Friday, September 19th, 2025, in the Trumpocene era, where you just can't take a joke. I'm Tom LoBianco. Welcome to the show. Today, coming up, we're going to have Elise Labott, longtime journalist, veteran international correspondent, foreign policy expert. She's going to be talking about what it looks like. What does it look like when you have the White House doing your late night programming? What does it look like when it's J.D. Vance live as opposed to Jimmy Kimmel? If you thought Kimmel was lame, well, wait till you get the Gestapo in there. We're not doing the other news stories right now. We're only doing this because this is the biggest story in the world right now. The country that was founded on free speech is now having a direct attack on it from the inside. From the inside. The call is coming from inside the house. All right, folks. If you're watching here on Substack here live at noon, you can drop in your comments. Ian's here. He'll be getting to them. We'll get to those at the end of the show. If you're catching us on the replay at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Political Voices Network over on YouTube, drop in your comments there, and we'll get to those as well later. This is big, guys. This is really big. I'm trying to think of a corollary. Let me read you the top of the Drudge Report right now. All right. Let's look at Drudge. Report: FBI to label all trans violent extremists, Nazi-style persecution of entire group. Trump asked Supreme Court to block passport gender choice. This is big, guys. The First Amendment of our Bill of Rights is in our DNA. It's a part of who we are. It makes us Americans. Ian and I were talking before the show, and he made some very excellent points. What the hell would happen if you couldn't have Phil Hartman beating the shit out of Bill Clinton? That was like one of the funniest skits in the entire world. All right. No Will Ferrell as W, or Janet Reno for that matter. What about Dana Carvey? Does he get to reprise HW? What is this? It's shocking that we're even talking about this right now. And thank God we are talking about it. And thank you for being here. I've been a journalist for more than 2 decades, and I'm continuing to do this here. And the reason I do this is because it is foundational to our country for all of us to know what's going on. And I've been covering politics for 2 decades. And if it's a crime, or if it would be a crime to say stuff that is completely wrong, there'd be no politicians. Hell, we might not even have this problem right now. Okay, there wouldn't be a Trump or a Vance, or a Biden or a Harris for that matter. Politicians say stuff that is incorrect all of the time. That's why I do this. All right. Apologies for the Baltimore lilt. I get into it sometimes. That's where I'm from. This is big. This is really big. We've been talking about this all week. Charlie Sykes, at the start of the week, told us how important it is to speak up now. There is no more important time. Yesterday on the show, Aaron Turr from FIRE, they're doing incredible work over there. Previously, FIRE was on college campuses fighting against Biden White House efforts to censor speech. Now they're doing the same thing against Trump White House efforts to censor us. And thank God they are. We know what this is because we've seen it before. We've seen it in other countries. When I talk with sources who work overseas, they're worried about us. They're worried about what's happening here in the United States. We are the beacon of democracy. That First Amendment is what makes us America. And we export it. We export it through our principles, our examples as a leader of democracy around the world. And it is absolutely astounding to think that a president would use the White House to attack us. And yet that's what's happening right now. On the text chains that I'm on, it's been frenetic for more than a week now, And my colleague, Julie Grace Brufke, who's up at the Capitol, working the halls constantly. She's has a great story up right now, talking about what to expect in the funding fight, potential government shutdown. She texted me Tucker Carlson, a clip of Tucker Carlson that's out there right now, where Tucker Carlson, no lefty, not by any stretch, where he says that free speech must be protected is who we are. How about this? Stephen Colbert reprising the Colbert Report last night. Jon Stewart and Nick Fuentes, leader of America's growing white supremacist movement, all saying the same thing. Don't cancel us. Don't cancel us. Now, this is a big moment in American history. They're telling us what they want to do. It's important to note how this is happening, where the pressure points are. It wasn't the FCC that canceled Jimmy Kimmel. It was the FCC that threatened to cancel Jimmy Kimmel, and Disney, Bob Iger, that flinched and said, "Oh, okay, yeah, we will. Absolutely. We'll cancel him." These are the pressure points. Before I bring on Elise, I want to read from her story out yesterday at her Substack Cosmopolitics. And do sign up for it. And if you don't already, please sign up for 24 Site News, 24sight.news. Elise is on the stack as well. And a big thanks to Substack for being a free speech platform, a place where we can do this, where we don't have to live in fear of Disney and Brendan Carr and Trump. Her story posted yesterday, Late Night with Viktor Orban. Jimmy Kimmel's suspension follows a script written in Budapest. ABC didn't pull Jimmy Kimmel off the air over an insensitive joke. It was the result of the latest chapter in a systematic campaign to transform American media, one that follows a script written not in Washington, but in Budapest, Elise writes. In his Monday night monologue, Kimmel accused conservatives of trying to exploit Kirk's death for political gain, saying, quote, "We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it." And he also mocked Trump's response to Kirk's death, saying it was not how an adult grieves the murder of someone he called a friend, but rather how a 4-year-old mourns a goldfish. I would note this is the exact same thing that Nick Fuentes said online. He repeated the Jimmy Kimmel joke. It's incredible. It's incredible, this moment that we're in. The Hungarian preview. Elise writes, Orban didn't seize control of Hungary's media overnight. He did it methodically, legally, and with a smile. First came the 2011 Media Act, which created a, quote, media council staffed entirely by his ruling party. The council could fine news outlets for coverage deemed, quote, unbalanced or immoral, vague language that meant whatever Orban wanted it to mean. Sound familiar? Carr's threats against ABC for, quote, news distortion echo this playbook perfectly. The terminology may be different, but the underlying principle is identical. Regulatory agencies serving not as independent watchdogs, but as political enforcers. Next, Orban's oligarch friends began systematically buying up newspapers, TV stations, and radio outlets. Editorial teams were fired, critical voices replaced with loyalists, and independent journalists found themselves unemployed. By 2018, just 7 years later, nearly 500 media outlets had been, quote, donated to a central holding company run by Orban's allies. Hungary still has elections, still calls itself a democracy, but the media chorus sings in perfect unison. The genius of Orban's approach isn't censorship, it's saturation. Why ban dissenting voices when you can simply drown them out? All right, guys, I'm going to bring in Elise. Elise, thank you.
Hi, Tom.
Hey, how you holding up?
I'm plugging through like everyone else.
We're
Been a
here.
long week.
Yes, we're here and not going anywhere. All right. We're not
Yeah, and
hungry.
again, thanks to Substack for continuing to, continuing to put independent voices on. And I was listening to, our old
Mm,
channel CNN, and one of the media critics that was on one of the shows said that the biggest winner in all this is going to be Substack, because they remain this place where
right.
we can all come and
That's right.
you and I have both complained a little bit that the voices are becoming a little homogeneous, and I would like to
Yeah.
see a greater diversity of voices, but at the same time, you can come on and say your voice without fear or favor, and know that Substack is a place where you can come and
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's remarkable. I never thought in my lifetime I would see the White House directly attacking us the way that they are right now, and yet here we are. Um, what do you've been covering international affairs for years.
Mhm.
We have you here, thankfully, because you're an expert on this. What do you hear from folks who know what this looks like? Because this is foreign to us. This is not American. This is not what we've seen.
Look, it's not American, and it's, on a whole host of things. I was visiting with a very senior Arab diplomat that was in town recently, and was just talking about the National Guard on the street, and was saying, like, this is not America on the streets
Mm,
of America. And I think it's across the board, just, and look, every president's going to come in and put their stamp on things, but there are just a few things that America stands for, and freedom of the press is one of them. And so for it to not be, look, we're free now. Okay,
yeah,
let's just say we're free now.
yeah.
Maybe we say it in quotes,
Hmm,
but this is what autocratic regimes do. They put pressure on through using instruments of the state. And so when we talk
hmm.
about, and I do encourage, selfless, shameless self-promotion, I do encourage you to read Cosmopolitics all the time, but
Please.
read this piece on Orban, and you can see I've written about,
Mm,
this is the third piece I've written about Orban in the last few years. Why? Because
mm,
this is a strategy that President Trump has learned from. They're quite
mm,
friendly. Orban has been spending a lot of time in the conservative political orbit. And these are things that he does, like, for instance, on, using state contracts, media regulatory power,
hmm,
giving regulatory power to friendlies who are then going to do what he wants. So are the agencies technically independent? Technically, yes, but if you're putting your loyalists in and you know that they're loyal to you and you even say it, are they really independent? It's the same thing with whether it's the FBI or the Justice Department. And so, Orban packed the courts by expanding the number of justices. And you see, look, again, every president is going to try to reshape the courts. But again, it's the loyalist idea, gerrymandering, civil society oppression. These are how, and technically it's legal. I mean, some of it'll probably go to the courts, but technically it's legal. But they call Turkey in a liberal, Hungary, Turkey is another one. They call Hungary in a liberal democracy.
Hmm.
And that's what we're becoming. I won't say we're becoming an autocratic regime.
Yeah.
I'd say we're becoming in a liberal democracy.
And I think, folks, if you're not already signed up for Elise's Substack, please head over to Cosmopolitics, sign up. One of
It's
the
the
things,
intersection of politics and geopolitics and foreign affairs, and how domestic politics is shaped by foreign affairs and vice versa, and trends in the world. And this is something I've been covering for a long time. So it's really interesting and disconcerting to see some of these things happening here.
it is, and I think the speed of this with which it is happening, and I'm often shocked. If there's a silver lining in this attack by the White House right now, I talk to folks who are like, "Well, I never thought I'd be standing up for Jimmy Kimmel," right? Of any of the
Right.
comedians, right?
Right.
Like,
Right.
right?
I was on my show yesterday with Danny Pletka, who's a good friend of
Mm,
mine, and she writes an excellent Substack. And if you're looking for an alternative, very conservative point of view, her Substack is called "What the Hell Is Going On," and she
mm,
has a Substack, and she writes with Mark Thiessen, who is another conservative and Trump supporter. She's not a
right.
Trump supporter, but she does agree with some of those conservative policies. And Danny is one of my closest friends, and we don't agree on much politically or ideologically, but we both agree, in the idea of, healthy, respectful debate.
Yeah,
And a lot like what Charlie Kirk is doing, like a lot of people, I didn't agree with him on any political issue, but I did
sure.
respect the fact that he'd go out there and say, prove me wrong. Let me hear your
Yeah.
view. And when people would, jeer at people trying to prove him wrong, he'd say, don't do that. Don't
Hmm,
do that.
hmm.
So, we always have to remember that all of this residual is coming from, a very horrific political assassination, which has larger implications of what's happening in our country. However, listen,
Hmm.
you can say whatever you want about, free press.
Yeah.
I thought those comments by Jimmy Kimmel, one of the things he's facing is he's not that funny. you know,
I know.
and people found what he said offensive.
Yeah.
I thought it was crude and in poor taste and bad
Yeah.
judgment personally.
Right.
Do I disagree with his right to say whatever he wants? That is not inciting
Yeah.
violence? Yes, I do.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, there's
Yeah.
the not funny and, but we know what happened here. And
Hmm.
anytime the government tries to get involved with what you say, that's
Yeah.
not inciting violence, that's not inciting terror, things like that. That's where we need to be concerned. And
Yeah.
so Trump can say whatever he wants about Kimmel and Colbert and Jimmy Fallon. I'm a Jimmy Fallon person. I never really,
Okay.
and I liked Colbert, but I don't watch Kimmel. I don't think he's that funny. But he can say whatever he wants, and he says a lot. But
Yeah.
once you start using the instruments of the state, and in this case the FCC, to punish corporations that are employing these people, you know, you can the Disney or whoever, if Nexstar was going to fire, preempt his show, or Tigna was going to, it was Nexstar and
Yeah.
one other, uh, Sinclair,
Yes, that's
and
right.
they were going to preempt the show. If it's because they're losing conservative viewers, and they think like,
Yeah.
that our viewers don't want to hear this, that's fine. But
Right.
that's not what happened. What
Right.
happened is the FCC threatened licenses, mergers, things like that, using the instruments of the state. And that's where, you know, that's an autocratic, illiberal
Right.
thing that, you do in Turkey, you do in Russia, you do in Hungary. And we don't do that here in America.
That's right. We don't do it.
No,
And it's bullshit.
it's bullshit.
It it is.
Everyone knows what it is. Listen, just because the administration and, I will say, and I'm going to put out this recording of Danny and I speaking about this, and I
Mm,
have show notes about a lot of the things. A lot of people on the right are coming out and
yeah.
saying, like, when Pam Bondi threatened to go against hate speech, and we saw what happened with the president and John Carl, and the president said, well, maybe they'll come after you. Why? Because he asked him a tough question.
Mm,
The Wall Street Journal, Matt Walsh, other
yeah.
conservative outlets are coming out and saying, no, that's a
Yeah.
line.
Right. Right.
And so, I won't be surprised if the administration tries to pass a law. I think the president said on Air Force One yesterday that, he gets bad coverage and maybe their licenses should be pulled. I think, as everything with President Trump, although we haven't had it yet,
Mhm.
there's a chance of him going too far, and I think they're going too far now.
Yes. This is it, he successfully made it a story about, instead of mourning Charlie Kirk, it terrible and horrific
Or, if
assassination.
you disagree, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. I mean, this is, you know what? And I'll say, like, this is not the way to honor Charlie Kirk's legacy.
Right. Yeah, he was not
The
the
way
point
to
person.
honor his legacy is to allow more,
Right.
and also a couple of things here. First of all, how thin-skinned do you have to be to, be like, oh, Jimmy Kimmel said something bad about me. I mean, you're the president of the free world. Like, why do you give a damn what this
Right.
little, my grandpa would call him a little pizzula. Why do you, or the little, he would call him a little cockroach.
Yes.
Why do you care? Like, again, if you're
Right.
parodied on Saturday Night Live, like, you've arrived, maybe they'll do
Yes.
a parody of us,
Yes.
on Insight News. So, why do you, this is small ball. And, on one hand, he wants the attention, on the other hand, so there's that.
Yeah.
And, instead of, he could have canceled, we're talking about cancel culture, right? He
Yeah.
could have canceled Jimmy Kimmel like that by just saying how poor taste it was. How do you, you know what I mean? And it
Yeah.
was poor taste. And,
Sure.
the first boss that hired me at CNN, Frank Sesno, was on with Dana Bash yesterday on CNN.
Hmm.
And he said he agreed, he said the same thing. I thought it was in really poor taste. I don't think you
Yeah.
celebrate someone's death. I don't think you joke about it.
Right.
You don't have to say anything.
Yeah.
And it wasn't funny.
Right.
So he could have been more effective in having people vote with their remote, is my new phrase.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's beyond ironic. It's just ridiculous.
But back
It's
to the whole
yeah.
Orban autocratic thing. I mean, this is what he did. Everything about
Hmm.
Project 2025, and Orban, he's very involved in Trump's kind of policy planning. And he claimed anyway to be in the policy writing system of the team. I don't know about that, but the
Yeah.
Heritage Foundation, which wrote Project 2025, had a formal partnership with Orban's Danube Institute think tank.
Hmm.
There are American conservatives promoting Hungary abroad.
Right.
Orban hosted a CPAC in
Right.
Budapest.
Right.
And so, Sebastian Gorka, who's, in the White House dealing with counterterrorism, worked for Orban at one point. And when you look at the judicial, the election, the gerrymandering, the economic, he used, not only rewarding oligarchs, but punishing corporations
Yeah.
that are not
Yes.
kind of falling into line. So it's not these aren't state-run enterprises, but by, controlling corporate
Right.
sector, And then there are the Orbans, anti-GBTQ,
Right.
anti-queer laws,
Right.
Christian liberty messaging, transgender stuff, and just the institutional gutting of what we're seeing. Like these are all plays out of Orban's book.
And, folks, if you're just
So I
joining us,
really think it's
yeah,
important that we see the parallels. And people throw around autocrat, dictator, blah blah
yeah,
blah. Like just look at what it is. You look at something like Hungary, you look at something like Turkey. Erdogan has done very similar things.
yeah.
Russia, Putin has done very similar things. But in terms of what we're seeing, I would say a liberal democracy. Because we still
It,
have
yeah,
elections, right?
right.
Technically, we have
We
elections.
do.
Technically, for now,
They're voting
technically we
down
have
in Virginia
elections.
right now.
Textually,
Yeah,
we're free. And so, I mean, that's one thing. And then again, Danny and I yesterday, it's just like, you know what? I think we all need to just take a moment and think about, people that don't agree with us and hold space for them. It makes you a better person. It
yeah,
makes you a better thinker to open up ideas. And if you can't do that, it doesn't mean they're bad people. It
right.
doesn't mean we have to dehumanize. I just think we're our own used enemy. I like to say that when President Trump was elected the first time, he he injected a flesh-eating disease into the media and to the
Yeah,
civil society, and we're destroying ourselves from within.
yeah,
We don't need to fall for
yeah.
this.
Hop in here real quick. Folks, if you're just joining us, I'm Tom LoBianco. You can drop your comments here. If you're live with us on Substack, you drop your comments in. Ian will gather those up and we'll get to those in a little bit. Here now is Elise Labott. She writes the Cosmopolitics Substack. We're talking about what is coming from the Trump White House. What are they doing? Right. So, what is happening? And the answer is that it's this guy named Viktor Orban. Now, I suspect a lot of folks don't know who that is. All right. I suspect this is, we are used to the extent, most folks pay attention to politics. It's domestic politics. A lot of folks really are just learning about this right now. Elise, who is Orban? Where did he come from? What is what did he do? How did he do this?
Well, so he's the prime minister of of Hungary.
Hmm.
And he was elected, once and then lost election.
Hmm.
And then kind of came back to power. Um and it kind of, again, those parallels. He said, I'm never going to be out of power again. And so
Hmm.
he had this whole period until he was elected again that he's like, I'm never going to lose power again.
I,
Um yeah, go
something I
ahead.
want to bring up that you when you write about this, and I think here are a lot of people might not know this. And Biden, when he left office, he warned of this. He warned of the growing oligarchy, and he put it on the Silicon Valley tech the broligarchy, so to say. And that is true, right? I mean, one of the biggest ones right now, the person who is trying to become America's media oligarch is a man named Larry Ellison, who's the founder of Oracle. It's a big tech company. They're the ones that his son is the one who bought up CBS and Paramount. They're trying to buy CNN right now as well, and potentially even TikTok is the reporting here. And if you look at that, I mean, that is how they will stifle speech and independent journalism and the free press.
That's true. Just go back to Urban for a second. I mean,
Yeah.
he started as this anti-liberal communist in the 80s and the 90s. He was prime minister
Hmm.
until, 2002, I think. And then he kind of moved to the center right. And the
Hmm.
turning point was in 2002 when he lost elections and he said the country can't be in opposition. And he kind of spent all these years kind of gaming his comeback. And so when he came back with this two-thirds majority in parliament in 2010, he's like, I'm never leaving again.
Yeah.
So he could be elected and elected and elected and elected. But if you're kind of moving the system around you,
Hmm. Yeah.
you're gaming the system again, like this a liberal democracy. I think, we need to start thinking in these terms: took control of the media through regulatory issues, targeted civil society through these kind of foreign agent laws. I
Hmm.
think we're going to see some civil society type laws. And again, where's the leadership in Congress?
Great question.
And you know what?
Excellent
I don't
question.
agree that Larry Ellison should take over CNN and war. I don't believe in these big conglomerates. I mean,
Yeah.
economically, it makes sense, I guess, but it doesn't make sense for a thriving civil society and democracy,
Right. Right. It is astounding to behold.
especially when Larry Ellison is kind of not unfriendly with the administration. And also,
Yeah.
the whole thing about all of this is, you know, um, again, creating this permanent crisis atmosphere,
Hmm.
which is something Orban did also. Enemies like the migrants, the LGBT, the Soros, the EU, like that's what Orban did. We can see the parallels here. So I feel like the parallels are very. We can almost see what's going to happen, right? Let's look
Yeah.
for NGO laws. So maybe
Hmm.
some of these laws targeting NGOs, media laws,
Hmm.
creating these permanent crisis. Are we at war? Those kind of things.
Interesting.
Hmm.
It's important to note that this didn't start after the Charlie Kirk assassination. This has been going on throughout the entire administration, attacking journalists, attacking news outlets,
Attacking
lawsuits.
them, but like, look, again, putting pressure on them
Yeah.
and putting pressure on, when Zaslav took over CNN through the Warner Brothers Discovery merger. I'm saying we, like we're still at
Sure.
CNN, but
Yeah.
they did go more towards the center. They were very under Zucker kind
Yeah.
of heavily. And I'll say,
Yeah.
all media was responsible for getting Trump elected. Then he got elected and he told them to piss off. Like everyone
Yeah.
thought, oh, well, we covered him so great. We're going to be in the catbird seat now. And Trump told them to piss off. And
Yeah.
then they decided, oh, we gotta go against him.
Mm.
So,
That you know
I
what?
don't want to
Yeah.
say that, look, we know how kind of insecure, low EQ, low emotional intelligence, all these things. The
Hmm.
media has to take its responsibility for where we are now.
Yeah.
Um, I don't think, even it is true that when Trump does something that's semi good or not so bad or whatever,
Mhm.
it's true that he doesn't get credit, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, at Cosmopolitics, and I think here, and other organizations, like we just have to call balls. If we're going to be reporters and journalists
Right.
and whatever, we got to call balls and strikes.
Right.
We got to
You know,
call balls and
yeah.
strikes. And he
Yeah.
does have good instincts sometimes. I was saying to a friend last night, I wish Trump had like a Sherpa, like
Hmm.
a friendly, not
Interesting.
friendly, a
Yeah.
healthy, Sherpa that can harness some of the good stuff,
Hmm.
that those instincts, and kind of push away, the bad and the bad people that are around him. And, let's be honest, like he's a vessel for a lot of people's bad and dangerous
Yeah.
ideas.
It's important to, one of the things that, we do is also, as journalists is, we're straight up about this stuff. We're, perhaps blunt to a fault, even certainly more than, civilians, so to say. But it's important that we're clear eyed about this, that we're, straightforward
And
and
not
honest
overly
about this.
dramatic. There are many
Right.
things to be
Right.
concerned about, but like we can't, spend the next 3.5 years, whatever. How long are we? 3+
Right.
years.
Yes. It's about
It
3.
feels like 10 years, but we can't spend the next 3 years sitting around whining, complaining. Like you have agency, there's an election coming up in 2026. And if you don't like what's going on, you know, You
Yeah.
have agency here. So,
It's yeah.
I just think it's so unproductive.
Yeah. It's that's kind of the approach I try to do with this. Not hair on fire. We've had plenty of that. Just
There
what
will be
can you
more
do?
moments for that, but, just like,
Plenty.
and there's not a lot we can do about it, but there are things we can do about it. So,
Yeah.
don't lean into the crazy, I'd say.
Folks, if you have questions for Elise, what's happening? If you disagree with us, we're here for it. Okay. I have trouble saying disagree, but we're not dictators, okay? If you disagree with us, we're journalists, all right? And we're here to talk about this. I want to read something from Gloria Regan. Clearly disagrees with us. What's wrong with you? Question mark. Poor communication, too fast, basic misunderstanding of America and decency. No more needed. No more emails, please. Uh, hear you loud and clear, Gloria. And you are in America and have the absolute right to say that. And
Vote with
that's
your
why we
remote.
do this. That's right. Vote with your remote. Corey Emerson voting with his remote here to be here with us. Thanks, Corey. Appreciate you. You
Thanks,
don't have
Corey.
to agree with us for us to love you. All right. But, I do. I like this. I like hearing from folks, when they
Yeah, I'm
bring
getting a
just
lot of
bring
flack.
energy.
I'm getting a lot of flack for not joining the bandwagon of just blaming everything on the right.
Mm,
And you
yeah.
know what? There's plenty to go around and there's plenty to blame on the right. And I think, there's plenty to blame on the right. Okay. I said
Hmm.
it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But like that doesn't absolve the left. And that's why,
Hmm.
the Democrats are in I think the
Hmm.
Democrats are in the situation that they are now. And when I say, because I'm not saying we're in I'm an independent. I just don't even, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I really am persuaded by a better argument by any side. And
Yeah.
I do have decency and I do have principles. And um,
Very much so.
I just think, um, we can't bury our head in the sand and say the other side sucks.
Yeah.
Where does that leave you?
Right. I want to read Corey's a comment and question. First says, quote, these network companies have to find their spine. This is Corey Emerson writing in. Do these networks and FCC officials realize and care that their names are likely to be documented in history alongside McCarthy, Quisling, and every other coward and betrayer of our freedom? Even a little bit.
Well, a
Yeah.
company that is,
Mm.
firing someone is not McCarthy. Let's just be honest. McCarthy was a particular individual. It's
Hmm.
McCarthy. It's succumbing. I would call it succumbing to McCarthyism.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where we're just kind of um, giving into the fear and the threats and the pressure. They don't their idea of using their spine, Corey, is sticking to their shareholders, what's best for the shareholders and what's best for the share. And I'm not saying I agree. I'm just
Yeah.
telling you how I see it. What's best for the shareholders is to get these mergers through, is to keep our license, and we're going to do what we need to do. I do
Yeah.
think actually, if Jimmy Kimmel apologizes for what he said, maybe they'll bring him back. I don't know.
Hmm.
I thought it was in poor taste. I would apologize if I were him. Not
Yeah.
not so that he could come back, but I mean, look, but then there's the idea that like, comedians should be able to just poke fun at
Yeah.
poke fun at the politics
Uh,
of the moment,
yes.
and that
Yes.
comment that Trump made was also ill-timed and, about the
Uh,
ballroom and whatever.
yeah. If you can't make fun of an American president, then we're not America
Right, right,
anymore. This is
right,
the most American thing in the world.
right.
Ripping on, I mean, my God, I grew up on Monica Lewinsky jokes. All right, like this is like this is my formative years from the left, from the right, from the
Right,
shock jocks, you
right, blue
name it.
dress and everything.
Yes, of
She's
course.
turned it around though.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Remarkable too, to see think back on that, how the Clintons went after her and all that. Certain now I will note this is different. I think this is, one of the things that we have to be very clear about here, which is, it's one thing to engineer a PR campaign. It's one thing to put public pressure out there. It's a different thing to use the force of the federal government to
No, I
threaten.
mean, you can't, what they're doing is not illegal. It's not dangerous. I don't think it's, I think, you want to go after someone, go after the social media companies.
Yeah. Great point.
But you know what?
Yeah.
The social media companies, fine. Like, go after their algorithms, and you need to get them to be more responsible. We're the ones writing that shit on social media. So, you know what I
That's
mean?
right.
Like, it's just the platform.
Yeah. This is, guys, we're going to wrap it up here in a little bit. But find, Elise, where can we find you? Where we
You
find
can
your
find
work?
me on Substack at Cosmopolitics, or also at cosmopolitics.news. I'm on Twitter, Blue Sky, LinkedIn. Feel free to connect. I'd love to hear from everybody.
Well, LinkedIn is social media is one of the strangest things I've ever experienced,
I
but
think
here we
LinkedIn
are.
is great. I really
Yeah.
like it. And I think
Yeah.
it's slightly more respectful.
That's right.
I think, Twitter is, I don't do Twitter that much anymore. Substack in the notes and stuff has become a
Yes.
nice feature. Um, I don't,
I don't do. I'm not here for Mecha Hitler. Okay, that was a Twitter not too long ago. I do love Substack. I think they're doing really great work. Where
yeah.
we can have these discussions
And
like
the
this.
good thing about Substack is there are so many good writers from different points of view. I mean, if you
Yes.
follow me on Substack, you'll see I read a lot. I read a lot from the left. I read a lot from the right. I read some food. I read some, other things too. But you really can get a good, diet of thoughtful people from across the political spectrum, and I think it's really healthy.
Yeah, absolutely. When I get questions about this from folks that are, not as they're not in this industry like us, so they come to us for answers. Say try to read across the spectrum. Maybe avoid some of the cable news these days. Frankly, we both came out of CNN. CNN does incredible news work still. Just great on breaking stories. But places like the New York Times, the
And also,
Associated
our old
Press,
boss, Sam Feist, is now running C-SPAN,
loves
and
C-SPAN.
they're doing great stuff too now.
Yes.
He's really doing a lot with C-SPAN.
So come to us with questions, guys. All right. If you're looking for good information, you can come to us and vent too. We're here for all of it. We're not here for censorship, though. That is, or I'm not. We're
And we're
not.
not here for trolling. I mean,
Yeah.
if you want to have an honest debate, come to us. If you want to, you know, um, make fun of my mom, I'm not here for it. But, um, healthy criticism and critiques and constructive feedback is welcome.
I will. You know what? I'm going to lead off the next show with an Elise Labott "Yo Mama" joke. All right, that is where we are in this country.
Well, if you're going to make fun of her online shopping habits, go for it.
Everything is fair game around here. Hey, Elise, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks everyone for watching. Look forward to joining, and you'll come over to Cosmopolitics soon.
Tune into it. It's great. Danny and Elise is saying it's really good. They do it every day. All right. See you, Elise.
Bye-bye.
All right, guys. I'm Tom LoBianco. Before we wrap up, I want to say a big thank you to our supporter here. Hold on a second. As I write this up, it is hang tight, guys. Okay. Before we head out, I want to say a big thank you to Manoj at Project Manage My Move. His support supported great folks. Beth Solomon, thank you so much. The support of great folks helping to support independent journalism as we continue to bring you the news. We bring you a lot of varied voices too. I mean, you just heard Elise say, she's catching flack from the left right now for not being for saying that, hey, you know what, some conservative folks have some good points here. We're journalists, we're reporters, and one of the reasons that we're able to do this, to bring you the news independently without fear of these mega billionaire corporate takeovers, is because we're here independent on Substack, on YouTube, on a number of other platforms. And with support from you, Manoj, want to thank you very much. Projectmanagemymove.com is Manoj's outlet. And he's a fellow business startup here. My buddy Manoj runs projectmanagemymove.com. If you're selling a house and don't have the time or energy to deal with cleanouts, contractors, or staging, he takes care of everything so you can avoid the stress and sell for top dollar. Go to projectmanagemymove.com and give him a call today. And I'll just tell you that I worked with him on the language on this. I work with our advertisers on how we're going to talk about this. And I'd never heard about this before. So this is called a distressed sale. This is something bad happens in your life. It's a death, a divorce, what have you. And unfortunately, you have to go through this. And you're wrapped up, obviously, a lot going on in your personal life, but then you also have to sell a home. If you put it on the market too fast without having it dialed up nice, you might not get all the money you need for it. So Manoj was explaining this to me. This is the work that he does. So what he does is he will actually go out and work with the contractors to do basic improvements throughout the house. He coordinates all of that, even stuff just as simple as painting the place, making it look nice, and little things like that, especially in a market like we're in right now. Little things like that will improve the home value greatly, tens of thousands of dollars. All right. So projectmanagemymove.com. Folks, thanks for being here. Thanks for being with us. This has been a week. Okay. I'm ready for the weekend. And I'm sure a lot of you are too. It's a lot to push through, but we are pushing through, and we do it together. Big thanks to my producer, Ian Walters. I want to thank our friends over at Political Voices Network, where this airs every day at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Coming up next week, we're going to be talking with Tom Hartman. It has a new book, veteran broadcaster Tom Hartman, about what's happening here. We're going to have on Mike Madrid, expert on Latino voters, and many other excellent guests as we plow ahead. And of course, all the news. Head on over to 24site.news, sign up, get this, support independent journalism. I'm Tom LoBianco. Have a good weekend, guys.